The war in Ukraine has entered one of its bloodiest phases yet, becoming the most devastating conflict on European soil since World War II. Millions have been driven from their homes, and the casualties on both sides are staggering. But if you look past the brutal stalemate, you will find a surprisingly calculated Ukrainian strategy that is changing the entire dynamic of the war, including audacious strikes deep inside Russian territory. This is no longer just a story of defense. It's a conflict that is evolving in dramatic and unpredictable ways. To really get what's happening now, we have to understand what both sides are fighting for. For Russia, the main goal hasn't changed: to cement its control over the nearly 20% of Ukrainian territory it currently occupies, grind down Ukraine's military and economy, and block its path to joining the West. In the east, especially in the Donetsk region, the fighting is a brutal war of attrition, what many call the Donbas Grinder. Here, Russian forces are making slow, agonizingly incremental gains, but at a huge cost. Battles for key towns like Pokrovsk are defined by non-stop artillery duels and gritty urban combat. Despite intense pressure, Ukrainian forces are still very much in the fight, launching counterattacks that make every yard of territory a bloody struggle. Down south, along the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts, the lines have been more static, but just as deadly. This area is all about long-range artillery, missile strikes, and especially drones. Both sides are using swarms of UAVs for everything, spotting targets, calling in artillery, and making direct attacks. This has created a vast kill zone that makes big armored assaults almost impossible. But maybe the biggest strategic shock of the last year didn't happen in Ukraine at all. It happened across the border in Russia. In August 2024, Ukraine launched a stunning incursion into Russia's Kursk Oblast. Ukrainian forces pushed deep, at one point controlling up to 1,250 square kilometers of Russian land. This bold move was designed to mess with Russian supply lines, force Russia to pull troops away from the main fronts, and bring the reality of the war home to the Russian public. And it seems to have worked. Russia had to rush tens of thousands of reinforcements to counter the attack. The Kursk front remains an active and costly battleground, forcing Russia to defend its own soil in a way it never expected. This conflict is also being fought far from the trenches. First, there's the war on infrastructure. Ukraine has been using long-range drones with remarkable success, striking deep inside Russia, hitting military bases, aviation plants, and, crucially, oil refineries. Russia's response has been a systematic campaign against Ukraine's energy grid. Throughout late 2025, massive waves of missiles and drones have pounded power plants across the country, plunging millions in the darkness and leaving them without heat or water as winter sets in. The International Criminal Court even issued arrest warrants for top Russian commanders for directing these attacks, classing them as war crimes. Second is the war on identity. In the territories it occupies, Russia is carrying out a policy of forced Russification. In 2025, a new push for negotiations has been driven by the United States. A US-led peace plan initially drew heavy criticism from European allies, but after tense talks, it has reportedly been revised, with Ukraine successfully pushing back. It appears Kyiv has insisted that the current front lines must be the starting point for any talks. Ukraine has signaled it's open to discussing a temporary ceasefire, but remains firm that it won't trade away territory or its right to choose its alliances. So the situation in Ukraine is a complex mix of brutal, grinding warfare and strategic creativity. On the ground, it's an attritional struggle where every foot of land is paid for in blood. At the same time, it's a surprisingly dynamic conflict. Ukraine has managed to shift its strategy, taking the fight directly into Russia, while simultaneously battling for its survival on the energy, cultural, and diplomatic fronts. Russia's relentless assault is pushing Ukraine into what could be its harshest winter yet. But Ukraine's daring raids and the fragile dance of diplomacy show this conflict is entering a new and deeply uncertain phase. With Ukraine taking the fight onto Russian soil and diplomatic channels showing the first faint signs of movement, what do you think the next phase of this war will look like? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to stay informed with clear, in-depth updates, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Thanks for watching.